Meanwhile, waiting to hear from Donald Trump on this side of the globe in Charlotte, North Carolina, where he is talking up an urban renewal effort that would help cities like Charlotte and would help a lot of the cities and some of the battleground states that Donald Trump has been making inroads in some late polls here. We've got XL Alliance co-founder Enrique Arbeláez, Democratic strategist Fatima Amara, and Republican strategist Gianna Caldwell. Gianna, begin with you then. How important is it for Donald Trump to lay this out, to talk urban renewal, and to address an audience that by and large doesn't hear that kind of thing, at least from Republicans?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hugely important, and I'm glad to see him taking this very significant step. I think during this election cycle, the biggest constituency group that loses out here is my community, the African American community. Here's why. Black lives don't matter to Hillary Clinton. Black votes matter to Hillary Clinton. And because black votes matter to Hillary Clinton, when Donald Trump, to his credit, been the most vocal Republican candidate running for president to mention things about unemployment in the African American community, crime and otherwise, when he brings those things up, and when Mike Pence brings up the need for criminal justice reform, because there's 2.3 million people in the American prison system, about 1 million of those folks are African American, Hillary Clinton doesn't respond with policy positions. She responds with rhetoric like, Donald Trump, you're racist, which is disenfranchising the African American community because there's not a debate on urban renewal and saving our communities.
Fatima, how much traction is this sort of stuff getting? I ask because at least in one of the polls, I believe in Arizona, where it's still tight, and it probably shouldn't be this tight in a largely Republican state, lo and behold, I discovered that Donald Trump is getting 1 out of 3 Hispanic voters. What do you make of that? Because that's a lot more than any prior Republican candidate has achieved in modern times. What's going on?
Well, I don't think Hispanic voters are particularly monolithic. I do think when you're looking at some place like Florida, which is also a very important state for Donald Trump to win, you've got about all of the absentee ballots that are coming in from Florida Hispanic voters, and 99% of them have already voted more than they have in 12, and they seem to be projected to be voting Democrat.
How would you know that, though? How would you know they're voting Democrat?
That's just been from the tracking numbers that have been coming out. So the majority of them have been tracked by those. The campaigns obviously are tracking these.
No, I don't mean to badge you on that, but if they're Democratic ballots, I mean, we often make the assumption, which is a good one,
right,
but
true.
the assumption that they're going to be Democratic votes, when in fact that sometimes is not the case.
Right. Well, I think by and large you can look at numbers from, certainly the campaign and how he's been doing with Hispanic voters to be able to sort of read that. But again, obviously it is, worth noting that the Hispanic community is not monolithic. I did want to go back to Gianna's point that I think that I'd actually disagree that, Black lives don't matter to Hillary Clinton. I mean, it was her campaign that has been traveling with mothers of the movement. She went out to Flint, Michigan early, way before Donald Trump. She definitely has put forward policy plans on discussing urban renewal.
To that point, she apologized for this 94 crime bill, but she was 8 years a U.S. Senator, never mentioned it, never put forth one policy solution to reverse the draconian effects on our community. Yes, it is true. You
well, guys, I want to go back to this. I don't want to leave. Guys.
That when she want to bring Enrique, she needs black votes.
I beg you to stop. I beg you to stop. I'm going to have to put it. You're both going to bed now without dinner. I'm sorry. I just had to do it. Enrique, if you could pipe down. Now, let me ask you, Enrique. You hear this, and you know this back and forth on these polls, and I know we over-obsess them. I'm guilty of it as well. But if there is a narrowing going on, not in all states, in some states, certainly in Florida, potentially in North Carolina, what is going on? Is it just a natural, kind of tightening you would expect in a race? We saw this in multiple races in the past. I mean, what is going on, in your opinion?
Look, it's a very tight race, and it's very, it's America being divided right now. But I do want to say that, Trump has a big issue with the votes from minorities, and particularly with the Latino community. And when you talk about urban renewal, you have to talk about the terms of construction and what construction can do to jobs in the Latino community. When you think about the fact that over 30% of the employees in the construction industry happen to be Hispanic. So that's a very important area when it comes to job creation. And now he also needs to talk about gentrification, because that's another big concern with urban cities and communities that could get displaced by these projects. But if you're able to put it in context of job creation and then be able to mitigate the concerns over gentrification, then it could be definitely a strong point that can help a little bit.
Gianna, when we talk about an urban policy and talk about a Republican initiating one, Hillary Clinton has said this is a Republican who doesn't mean what he says, and how he has treated his own workers, she says, is proof of that. Does he have to bring that sort of thing up? Does he have to remind people what he's built just in Washington today with his Washington hotel that was kind of formally opened today, that he does help folks out. He does, encourage a more urban and American hiring, and these aren't jobs that are shifted away, or worse, workers who aren't paid.
Well, if I were him, I would remind everyone that black lives don't matter to Hillary Clinton. Black votes matter to Hillary Clinton. And I would also mention the fact of this work that he did with Rainbow Push years ago with Jesse Jackson, saying that he was an individual that he can call, meaning Jesse Jackson said that Donald Trump was an individual he can call when it came to jobs and bringing forth jobs in our community. That's what I would remind people of. And I will also remind people of what Hillary Clinton and her supportive policies that have decimated the African American community. I know yeah.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. Unfortunately, we're pushing with time. I want to get you back another time. No slight to anyone. I appreciate it, though. We are waiting here for Donald Trump. We're totally, that's not too far away.